Hey, good afternoon. This is Brian Bonner, Chief Editor of the Kyiv Post, Ukraine's global voice in the English language, coming to you live from the Kyiv Post studio in the Kedor building, 68 Zhelanska Street. I'm excited today because we have a great fun discussion on legalization of gambling in Ukraine. This gambling has only been legal now, re-legalized for a year now, and so we have assembled experts to see how it's going and whether or not we can become the Las Vegas of Europe. I think that would be an exciting thing for Ukraine to have. As we know, gambling has, like in many places, it has a tough history. There are many people who are opposed to it for moral reasons. In Ukraine, it was illegalized from 2009 to 2020. The trigger point for making it illegal was a tragic fire in a gambling hall in Dnipropetrovsk in 2009, killing 9 people. And that led to a very huge public outrage and the banning of gambling. But as our speakers can attest to, making gambling illegal didn't make it go away. It just put it underground. And so now, after giving it a lot of thought, the legislature, the president decided to open up gambling, make it legal, make it regulated, and bring it out into the open where it is in most nations, many nations where it is legal. So I want to start today. I think it's fitting to start with the state regulatory expert, one of the leaders in legalization of gambling, Boris Baum. He is the first deputy chairman of the Advisory and Expert Council of the Commission for the Regulation of Gambling and Lotteries. So I'd like to start, Boris, just to ask how the first year went in your estimation. And I'd also like you to get to tell people who don't know, how do you go about starting a gambling or getting a gambling license in Ukraine? Who is it limited to? What are the requirements? And also, this is seen as a attractive industry for Western investors because I think some estimates are, like when it was illegal, the estimates of the gambling industry were $1 billion to $2 billion a year. And then maybe you can talk a little bit about the potential and just basically how's the first year gone?
Good day, everyone. Thank you for inviting us. So I'd like to use this opportunity to advertise a little bit Ukraine and with its new gambling market. 13th of August is the day when the president signed the legal bill, as we call it, the gambling bill. And since then, 1 year passed, and we are proud to be the country that implemented the gambling law the fastest in the world. So it basically took us approximately since the creation of the gambling authority, it took us 3 months to implement the law and issue the first license to the operator. So basically on the 13th of August the bill was signed, and on this, I think, 2nd of February we issued the first online license. I could be wrong in dates, but I think it was 2nd of February, maybe 10th of February. Since that moment, starting from February, we have issued more than 40 licenses to 40 different operators. That included online gambling, online betting, land-based casinos, land-based slot operations, online poker licenses, and multiple B2B licenses necessary for the companies that work B2B, and other operators work B2C, like business to customers. In terms of success, as we said, well, indeed, there is a multiple discussion that after the first year, the government was planning to generate approximately 7.4 billion hryvnias. This is approximately 300 million euros, a little bit more, of taxes. But we only generated right now 1.1 billion, which is approximately, 15% of that money. But the disclaimer is the following. So we have generated this 1.1 billion hryvnias collecting license fees. So none of the taxes that were supposed to be collected we've been able to collect because there is not yet tax law voted in the parliament. So we've been successful. Usually when you pass the law, you have to pass together with that law amendments to the tax laws. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, because of several subjective and reasons and lobbying reasons, so that process was postponed for 1 year. Only in the end of July of 2001, exactly after 1 year, we've been able to get the first voting for the amendments in the tax laws. And now we're waiting for the so-called fall session of the parliament to go through the second voting. Once it's done, it will take 3 months to implement and get these amendments in power. And then basically we plan that from 1st of January, hopefully these taxes will come into the effect. And then the companies will be able to pay and the government will be able to collect the taxes.
Boris, am I correct in saying then that the industry operates completely tax-free right now?
The industry operates completely tax-free, yes and no. Okay, so first of all, the law, in the law there was a special clause that says that before the tax amendments are voted, the operators are paying triple license fee. So the triple license fee, this extra fees are kind of substituting the future taxes. So we'll talk about the operators who already bought the licenses. So they understand that they prepaid the taxes. But of course, we understand that for some players, prepaid tax for the existing players, that is in their favor. For the new players that are not present in this market, of course, they are overpaying the money and they are not happy. So that was one of the reasons why today we have such a minor representation of the foreign investors and foreign operators, because they don't understand, well, first of all, the clarity of what the taxes will be. And on the other hand, they say, listen, this is too expensive, because Ukrainian license today, especially for the sports book, is one of the most expensive. So the other two are, I think, only in the United States. I think in Pennsylvania, then 10 million, I think that's what they cost. Mm-hmm. But in Ukraine, it's $1.2 million, and that is expensive, an expensive license. But on the other hand, this is the largest European country with a 40 million population that does play, that has sports, and of course this market for the big international operators is considered very lucrative, and they are ready just to have it in their portfolio because they're public companies. If you add up like a country with a 40 million people population, you will generate the money here, and for their portfolio it's very beneficial. Nevertheless, they took a little, I'm going to this potential, they took a little break in their decision and waiting for the taxes, because taxes is very important for them, because that outlines the rules. There were some discrepancies in the previous tax laws, and for example, online casino are not even mentioned in the tax code of Ukraine. So we had to introduce this new gambling activity, and we have lowered the already introduced tax on it's called gross gaming revenue, GGR. That's a common law that used in the gambling industries all over the world. So we introduced a very mild level of this GGR in the amount of 10%, which is very good, and that basically a little bit, the average in the world is about 15%. So on this 10%, a little bit balances this expensive license fee and taxes that people have to pay. And on the other hand, it introduces only and kind of welcomes only financially stable companies, the big operators. So we had meeting with Bet365. So they visited us and they said, listen, I mean, the 1 million doesn't scare us. So we want to have all the laws, the gambling law passed, tax laws passed. We want to see that there is a gambling commission. We want to see that everyone works, that the procedures are transparent, that there are no hidden clauses that we will not be able to obtain the license. And basically what we have proved since February, that it's an absolutely transparent processes. Whoever applies gets the license. We very strictly, in the law, very strictly checks the sources of funds, which is important for Ukraine. The rules are very simple. You have the guarantee in the bank. You have to have sufficient capital. You pay for your license.
Guarantee of more than $1 million.
More than a million, but this is even a small one, because, for example, in small Latvia it's 1.4 million. In Italy, I think it's 1.4 million. Some countries have even larger guarantee. Why it is necessary? If the company, for example, doesn't pay the money, something happens, that money is used to cover people's deposits, as it is for online business and for the sports book as well, for the bets to be paid, for lottery the same. So it is crucial to have these things, and we're not inventing anything. So we took the best practices of the world to do it. In terms of interest, so once the law was passed, especially the first voting for the taxes, so we had multiple now, and we know it's a list of foreign companies, all top 50 sportsbook and online casinos, and even the land-based, when Hard Rock wants to come and build a huge hotel here for their land-based operations. So there's a huge interest. I know that they're simply waiting, right, and they have opened already representative offices here, getting the companies, getting the money into the country, and they are waiting simply for the second voting, which must take place in October. And we know that the second wave of the operators will apply for the licenses and start operating in 2022. And this is exactly when these numbers that we have calculated, 7.4 billion, the government will get in taxes. And we are pretty sure, because we think that this Ukrainian market is approximately, the turnover of this market is approximately 500 to 600 billion hryvnias, which is about 20 to 30 billion dollars. And approximately operators must generate, depending on the activity, approximately 10% of that turnover, so they make the gross profits. So that's why we consider that the market is worth approximately $2-3 billion of gross profits, and this is what the companies are fighting for. So, and in general, today the sportsbook market, we evaluate, they have approximately from 500 to 700 million of these profits. Online casinos approximately 500, 600, and the rest, 300-400 million dollars. That is the share of the land-based casinos and the slot machines. This is what is happening right now. Therefore, the market is huge. In terms of sportsbook, for example, I know that pretty much we thank them for organizing this, but nevertheless, they are number one and the only sportsbook operator in Ukraine. So as we understand, there is a market for that. So we invite all the operators to join the market and get the competition working, because the market is huge. So welcome. I mean, we had already Canadian operators. We have Armenian international operators that already got the licenses. So there are people that are applying and working closely with the regulator and getting the licenses through and opening the businesses. Wanted to say one little thing about the land base, which is important. The reason, as it was in 2009 and 2020, 2019, for closure of the land-based business, first, of course, was the tragedy in Dnipropetrovsk. But the underlying issue was not that it was that there was a fire and the death of the people. The reason was the uncontrolled opening of this business all over the Ukraine.
No regulation.
It was regulation, but it was very insecure. So they were opening in each corner. So there were no strict rules in terms of access to the players. Like today, we have it very strictly and clearly identified. 21 years has to be identified, has to have a passport, identification card, has to be all security rules we are clearly stated, fire security, alarm security, everything must be properly done. And that was ignored in 2009. The same, and then it was prohibited. So in 2019, we even had a worse outspread of the illegal business and opening of these premises. So there were 20 times more of these spots than was in 2009. So approximately 20,000 land-based little different and lottery and sports book and illegal slot machines, everything. So that, of course, caused the problem because it went under control. Right. And this was the reasoning why these things were, it was decided it has to be closed and has to be somehow put in under some at least legal frame.
It took 11 years to get
it took 11 years. So the reasoning for this was very, very simple. The market generated approximately $1 billion in black cash. So
strong lobby to keep it the way it was.
Very strong lobby, and then instead of paying this money to the for example to the budget, this money was going to other they knew it, so the money was going to some government entities, but not to the budget. So that was a pure corruption. So and everyone understood that, and they wanted, of course, to make it all proper. That's one thing. The other thing that was not considered in the beginning is the development of the online market. That pretty much understand. So in 2000, basically since 2012, so online started booming, and online was so pretty much was the first one to understand that trend. So their competitors were going land-based and they were going online. So that's why they understood something is.
Let's open this up, and we're going to get back to Boris. That is a great overview, I tell you. Roman Sirotan, you're the co-CEO of Peremach Tech, which is has the biggest advertising budget, I think, in all of Ukraine in the last year. But I want to ask you specifically, following up on Boris, do you really think that there's a demand for gambling that's worth $20 to $30 billion a year in Ukraine? That's 15% of the GDP. And maybe you can tell us, I mean, you operate in several other countries, so maybe you can tell us the experience about that and what you hope for here.
Okay. First of all, thank you for organizing this event. Thanks Kiev Post, and I want to thank all people who were involved, and government, parliament, bodies who were involved in legalizing gambling in Ukraine, because it was a really important milestone which was already achieved, and now we are in the process. The tax regulation which was mentioned is very important, and I'll tell a bit more about that, starting from our view of international markets, because now we as Peremach Tech is an international company which aims to provide our clients with entertainment, which is an important word, and I will discuss it a bit more, and the best service in all over the world, in different countries, in different continents. Now we have operations in UK, we are starting Africa, Asia, former Soviet Union, and so on. So we had a lot of talks with different people, partners, companies which want to cooperate with us, and that's why we have knowledge about how it works in different countries. So rephrasing your question, I want to mention a few things that I believe impressed me in when I see different markets from what we see here, and that I think should be that experience that we should look at. And first of all is definitely the responsible gaming. So responsible gambling, which let's take the example of UK as probably oldest, most established market. And what is here not really mentioned a lot, thanks to the legalization, it is started now to be mentioned, and people are now starting to think about it. But let's look at the experience of the market, which is already established for a lot of years. And first of all, what I want to say about this experience of responsible gaming with our UK partners, what we discovered is that it is not first of all about regulation. The first pillar of responsible gaming, I would say, it's a culture. So culture of understanding and promoting that gambling is not a place, it's not a workplace, it's not a place and earn money, it's entertainment. So we all, not all, but I hope that people that are planning to gamble, that want to make a bet, go to a casino, go to a slot machine or whatever, that they will truly understand that it is entertainment and that they're paying for their emotions. For example, let's take personal example. When I go to play, I don't know, blackjack, I don't expect that I will win tons of money. Yeah, I expect that I will have good time. Maybe I will win, maybe I'll lose, but in any case. So, and that's what it is, a healthy mindset and behavior. So, what can we learn from this? Yeah, we can learn that operators, first of all, and government as well, should promote this type of view on the gambling. We still might see, it was, I think, 10 and more years ago, very heavily, some advertisements that might say that you will earn money doing gambling. So it should be it shouldn't be promoted. We should discourage such type of advertisement, and that's the first, I would say, thing to go about responsible gaming. Second is the culture of how society, operators, and people treat, let's call them problematic gamblers, yeah, the people who have problems with gambling. And first of all, here is to understand what is the problem, who are the people who have problems with gambling, how to define them, how to find them, because we started to gather the data from our operations, and we started to to share experience with different gambling companies, and to find the people. It's not about betting huge, yeah, having problems with gambling. It's not about betting huge. It's not about even losing a lot of money, because for different people, a lot of money is like a very different thing. It's not even about betting a lot of time, but it's quite close, yeah. But there are patterns when people become a problematic gambler, and the definition would be that when gambling has negative effect of his life. So let's compare it to alcohol. Yeah, we can drink a glass of wine, or we can drink like a bottle of vodka every day. Yeah, and the problematic gambling is about finding when the gambling becomes a harm to a person. From my point of view, it's not only like ethic problem, but it's like interesting and important IT and technology problem, yeah, math problem, because having huge amounts of data, UK companies, like they did it at first, they have a lot of experience in finding patterns of person having a problems. For example, like usually he's playing during daytime, but during when he starts to playing during nighttime, he's using one credit card. Now he's starting to having four credit cards.
Roman, let me ask you some of this. Whether some of these, because that you're right, gambling is associated with gambling addicts, and in America, You know, we've had, like other countries, we've had people who've lost their houses, their savings, everything, because they couldn't stop gambling. On Parimatch's website, you talk about social responsibility that you adhere to. Age verification to prevent minors from gambling, set limits on betting amounts, cooperation with gambling addiction prevention companies, gambling therapy, communications and information sharing about responsible gambling, support services 24/7 all year round. Are all these in place in Ukraine?
It's starting to be in place. The law doesn't put so much restrictions in place. I believe that operators should be, and operators and some gambling councils which are presented here today, so they should be more inclined to do this than the law says, because operators will have more data, they will have more understanding on which harm is, how harm is brought, because just simple self-exclusion is not the only way, and it's not even the best way for the customer, because he might not use it. So the best ways are to have technology solutions, which we are now developing as well. We have some, to admit, some at least simple things now, but the goal is to have technology solutions which find the problems within personal gambling from his way of his gambling. Usually it's a significant change of the style of gambling, which brings to the conclusion that the person has a problems, and that might trigger outbound call or some notification to the person that he probably should reconsider what he's doing at the moment, because the nature, like, it's a hard topic, but we need to discuss it probably with psychologists, yeah, who have the experience of this. But the nature is about having not controlling personally.
Let's switch. I think we'll pick up on that, because that's going to be an ongoing, I think, issue.
Yeah.
Gambling as entertainment, as long as it's under control. But what do you see as the economic potential in terms of how big the demand is in dollars? Does 20-30 billion sound right to you?
I think the numbers are a bit high, but I think the potential will rise, like, in 2-3 years. When the market becomes legal, we have the funnel of the people who might want to gamble and to experience it. The funnel becomes bigger, and after market becomes widespread, the funnel will be bigger. But here I want to come to the second question about which Boris already mentioned, about taxes and about the regulation. So from international experience, we see a lot of different countries all have different regulations, but there are good and bad examples, and what we have now in Ukraine, we are line into the good example, and I hope that the law, the bill that the parliament is planning to vote like this autumn, that after the vote we will have the good regulation environment in Ukraine. So let's speak about tax, and okay, we can split it into two portions: taxes on business, yeah, and winning taxes on players. So the important side here is that winning, that where we are now. So let's just remember the economics lessons. Yeah, this is it was called, I think, Laffer curve. Yeah, where Laffer curve is the concept when government raises taxes. First, the tax raise increases tax revenue, total tax revenue. Later, the tax raise decreases tax revenue because it decreases investments, it decreases white business, and so on. So what we have now, we are on the right side of Laffer curve, where the general tax burden on players and business altogether is too high, and the improvements that are proposed in the mentioned bill, and specifically decreasing to zero the winning tax, which is really important, will not decrease but increase tax revenue and will make Ukrainian market like working at, I would say, at full capacity. Because good examples of regulations are the countries, okay, let's take UK, Romania, where the offshore market are almost, there is almost no offshore market, but there are examples in Europe and different countries of regulations with like huge taxes, but players don't want to pay them. They don't want to have bad prices, bad offering, or they don't want to pay direct huge taxes on winnings. And they seek to find operators which will give them ability not to pay taxes. So what I think we are now at this right part of the Laffer curve, and the improvements that will be brought by the tax changes will allow Ukrainian gambling businesses to work at full capacity, because players will not have any incentive to find out different places to
So
play.
you want this draft adopted, or you're lobbying for lower taxes still?
No, I think that the draft, which is already now, I don't know, like all changes that were proposed to the draft, because there can be, as far as I know, a lot of them. But in general, the idea of decreasing taxes, decreasing winning tax, which is very important, it's a good idea. And idea of making the tax regime competitive is as well good idea, because this will bring competition to the market. This will allow different players to compete, and in general this will bring better service to customers.
Okay, let's go around, because I want to bring everybody into this discussion so that we have time for questions. 1 second, Boris. I just want to go to Anton Kuchikidze, chairman of the Ukraine Gambling Council industry group, basically. And I wanted to ask what, okay, I'll start with the general question, why does society need gambling? And I'll move to another question, which is the politics of gambling in Ukraine. What changed to make it now acceptable and legal, as opposed to illegal and unacceptable?
I think that any society needs very effective and legal gambling market, because the main idea of legal gambling is social protection, social responsibility, and fair play.
So you're not selling it as a benefit to society, it's just entertainment, good, pure entertainment.
Yeah, but I think that gambling, it is not about entertainment, and it is not about budget profits. It is, for me, it is first of all is social responsibility of operators, and in accordance with the Constitution of Ukraine, the government must to protect the health of people, their dignity, etc. So one of the sphere where the government must do their obligations is also gambling. So it is a normal, effective practice, because when we was in so-called closing time, unfortunately, we had big problems with gambling addicts, with illegal halls, with the access of children to their gambling halls, etc., etc. And we can say that the government, the state as institution, was not effective at that period of time. So I also want, like Boris, advertise in Ukraine, and I want to say that Ukraine makes great reform, because for me it is very important that society live in good conditions. And as Boris said, unfortunately, when the market was legal before 2009, it was chaos. Really, I was a scholar, and we played children in any shop near the schools, etc., etc. So I am grateful for the current political elite that they made this market really civilized and effective, and they restricted the access, for example, for children or gambling addicts to gambling in a hall or slot halls, etc., etc. So about the second question about politicization, in any country, this issue is politicized. In any country, I have a lot of conversations with different Western advisors of different companies in Europe or in US, etc., and they all told me that really in any country, in any market, this issue is very politicized. So one of the aim of UGC to be effective advisor and to give effective support for the government to make good reform in future also, because if we think that we one pass good law and every issues are solved, it's not true. It's really dynamic and systematic work for government, for white operators, and for civil society to protect the benefits which country and society receive from the legal and responsible gambling market. First of all, I want to say that really the political will of the President of Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky, was crucial aspect.
Is he a gambler? Do you know?
I don't know, frankly speaking. For make this reform, and the government has some levels of this reform. It is budgetary level. It is to bring the operators from the shadow economy. It is so-called anti-corruption policy.
It was well thought out.
Yeah,
this legalization.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you: do you think there's any danger that it will lose public support and become illegal again, or you pretty confident in the way the law was adopted and that it will get support?
I think that we should work with public opinion, and it's normal because we have a lot of enemies for white gambling market. As my colleagues mentioned, many billions of dollars was in shadow.
The gray economy.
And they had really a powerful lobby.
Yeah.
They had a lot of NGOs, so-called NGOs, etc., etc. They had a big infrastructure for protecting shadow market, but now the government demonstrates that we are state, and there should be good rules in any sphere of the life of country and for the development of country. So it is good image for Ukraine, and it is good image for Western investors to see that the government makes its best to show that Ukraine is not corrupted country. Ukraine can do its best for being white, transparent, and a developed country in future.
I want to ask you, Anton, switching, what is the industry, since you represent the industry, what does the industry need to reach its potential in Ukraine? And what is the potential? Do you think it's $20–30 billion that can go that high?
Yeah, I agree with mentioned figures. First of all, what government and the whole industry should do is, first of all, support tax amendments. It will be good sign for internal and external investors because the main interest of Western companies is to see their regulated, systematic market. And taxes are one of the bases for regulation any market, are the basis for making some calculations for investors, advisors, etc. So first of all, taxes. And we as UGC completely support 2713D draft law, and we think that it will be a good chance for Ukraine to make more money if we talk about budgetary sphere.
So this is the draft law that passed in the first reading.
Yeah.
What was the vote, by the way? Was it overwhelming? Boris?
I think it was overwhelming. So it was 260 or 250? Was it 260?
246.
So clear
If I'm
majority.
not
A
mistaken.
clear
It
majority.
was 200. No, it was 252 votes because it was plus 26. So we get four more. We get 4 votes more than we got for the bill, for the original bill, and 26 votes plus in Ukraine, with the majority, is considered basically a substantial victory. And support for the bill. So
Sorry to interrupt you, Antonio. You wanted to finish about the potential, and then adding to the potential, can we see, I mean, will there be all forms of gambling someday? Horse racing, dog racing? Will it be just like Las Vegas?
Yeah, and we have such chance. I'm sure that Ukraine has good chance for being Eastern European Las Vegas or Eastern European gambling hub, because we are the biggest market of gambling in Central and Eastern Europe. The second point, which can give us the opportunity to be effective market and effective as a state, is the struggle against illegal operators. And the government made great progress in this sphere. In the end of 2019, were closed many black operators. Now also struggling is continuing, and the government has the decision of the court to close more than 1,000 illegal online sites, and also we as UGC give for the regulator the list of illegal land-based offices where is illegal gambling. So in this moment, the government, regulator, and civil society are very closed with each other and help each other to struggle against illegal market. And it is the example of systematic work for government and for NGOs. And the third point, which can give us a chance to be more effective as a market, as an industry, their culture of customers. Gambling is not about money. For example, I like gambling, and I can't say that I'm a professional gambler, but I have a big experience of play, and the main aspect that people should understand that it is really entertainment. It is not your salary, it is not your workplace, it is really your character, entertainment, good mood, etc. If you understand gambling in such manner, you will have good result in this sphere.
What's your favorite form of gambling?
Poker.
Poker. Okay.
Yeah, different types of poker.
Do you have experience winning or losing?
Yeah.
Winning and losing.
My balance is very positive for me.
Okay.
I wrote every my bet.
We got a great poker player here.
Yeah.
then,
So
okay.
and I think this culture also can give the people, first of all, and the government chance to be a great market, because unfortunately populists like to make some media campaign against white gambling, that it is about money, you will lose everything, etc., etc. It's not true. white market is entertainment, and white market is responsible gambling. So I want to wish all success the government and all white operators to making Ukraine great.
Okay, this is great. Now, logically, this brings us to our final speaker, Alexei Kucher, head of the State Regulatory Service of Ukraine. After all that's been said, I mean, I have to ask, how confident are you that the state has the regulatory apparatus not to overregulate, not to underregulate, has the proper enforcement powers, and do you, one of the reasons why the price was so high on licenses was to attract just big, clean players? Was that the strategy going in, so not anybody can have a license? I'll turn that over to you because we talked about popular support for gambling, and a lot of that, it seems to me, depends on how successful gambling is regulated. Take it away.
Так, дуже дякую, шановні колеги, за цю цікаву дискусію. Я в першу чергу хочу повернутися до певних тез, які вже були озвучені.
So first of all, thank you so much for this very productive discussion. And first of all, I would like to go back to some talking points.
На мій погляд, вже сьогодні зайвим є говорити про те, чи необхідно легалізувати азартні ігри чи ні.
In my opinion, now it's even unnecessary to say that it's important to legalize gambling in Ukraine.
Сьогодні вже рішення прийнято, воно прийнято вищим законодавчим органом України, Верховною Радою України, проголосовано, і ми його повинні впроваджувати.
Because the relevant law has already been adopted, it has been voted for by Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, so there is not an issue with this, we need to implement it.
Більше 10 років азартні ігри знаходились поза законом. І ми знаємо наслідки, ми розуміємо і бачимо ті дослідження, які проводились щодо нелегального обігу грошових коштів, скільки заробляли на цьому. І весь час нам приводять декілька прикладів, там жахливих прикладів, чому закрили азартні ігри. Ви сьогодні згадували 2009 рік. Але оскільки не контролювалась вся ситуація більше 10 років, ми не знаємо ті жахливі приклади, які були в цей час.
I would like to say that for more than 10 years gambling has been illegal in Ukraine, and we now see the consequences that it brought about. Some people say that the illegal turnover of this grey gambling was very high, and a lot of people quote awful cases, such as one was mentioned here during the discussion about when 9 people were died in 2009, but we don't have any statistics on what has happened during these 10 years when gambling was illegal in Ukraine. Maybe there were even more awful cases like this, because it was totally uncontrolled.
Однією з функцій Державної регуляторної служби є якраз дослідження ефективності прийнятого регуляторного акту. Я в даному випадку маю на увазі цей регуляторний акт, який дозволив легально провадити азартні ігри. І ми можемо його дослідити через повне впровадження всіх регуляцій по азартних іграм через деякий час, а це приблизно 2 роки. Після ми всі разом надамо відповідь, чи доречно було легалізовувати азартні ігри, чи ні.
The goal of the State Regulatory Service is actually to analyze the consequences, the results of legalization of gambling in Ukraine. I mean, in particular, this adoption of the Regulatory Act, which legalized gambling business in Ukraine, and we will be able to do that in some time after the business has been fully legalized and working. It will take about 2 years, and only after that we will be able to say whether this law was good.
Моя особиста думка, враховуючи попередні вже дослідження, що легалізація повинна була пройти, і це правильне було прийнято рішення.
In my personal opinion, this decision was completely right, and gambling business in Ukraine has to be legalized this time.
Тепер щодо взаємовідносин між владою, в даному випадку це КРАІЛ, комісія, яка регулює азартні ігри, а також представники бізнесу, які приймають участь. Ви зараз спостерігаєте, що між владою та цим бізнесом все добре. І це ми спостерігаємо, тому що Державна регуляторна служба є певним майданчиком, де якраз сходиться, де якраз присутні органи державної влади, під час прийняття тих чи інших регуляцій органи державної влади якраз ведуть прямі дискусії з представниками бізнесу з тих чи інших питань.
Speaking of cooperation between the state, namely between the Ukrainian Gambling and Lotteries Regulation Commission and business representatives, I would like to say that this cooperation is very productive, it's very good, as you can see. We also see it at our service because we actually are a platform where representatives of the business and the state communicate between each other.
Я вам відповідально заявляю, що тут позиція і бізнесу, і позиція регулятора не розходяться зараз. Є певні моменти, які узгоджуються, і вони узгоджуються в робочих процесах, і ми цим займаємося. Ось останній місяць, наприклад, ми вже двічі збирались, ми виступаємо певним рефері для того, щоб узгодити оці певні там непорозуміння, які є.
I would like to say that in my personal opinion, the position of the regulator and gambling business representatives of Ukraine are the same, so we are on the same page. There might be some misunderstandings or things that we need to discuss, and we do just that. For example, last month we organized such a discussion. So essentially we act as a referee, as a mediator between the state and the business.
Тепер відповідаючи на ваше питання, чи зарегульовано, чи не зарегульовані зараз ці відносини. Мушу сказати, що дійсно чим простіше будуть правила, тим більше бізнесу буде до цього залучено. І тим швидше бізнес вийде з тіні. Зараз необхідно констатувати, що велика доля бізнесу все ж таки знаходиться поза межами закону.
As for your question about whether this market is regulated too much or not enough, I would like to say that the simpler the rules, the better is for the business, and the faster the business will come out of the gray zone. Because we need to say that even now, part of the gambling business in Ukraine is still in the shadow.
І це якраз наша функція. Ми є фільтром, через який проходять ці регуляторні акти. І ми все робимо для того, щоб ці регулювання були дуже простими, щоб бізнес просто заходив на цей ринок, щоб були встановлені прості правила гри і доступні для якомога більшої кількості зацікавлених осіб.
And I would like to say that our service acts as a filter. Our function is to make these regulatory acts as simple as possible, to make sure that they are simple and that rules of the game are clear and transparent to all stakeholders.
На жаль, не всі державні органи, я мушу це констатувати, розуміють, що правила гри повинні бути простими, ефективними, зрозумілими і прозорими.
Unfortunately, I must say that not all state agencies agree that rules of the games in this market need to be simple, transparent and clear.
І знову ж таки, на жаль, ми маємо зараз деякі акти, які заходять до нас щодо регулювання, щодо контролю азартних ігор, які будуть не на користь. Ми, звісно, відверто про це говоримо і не пропускаємо такі регуляції.
And unfortunately, some of the acts that we receive that we need to analyze, which are related to gambling business, are not sufficiently transparent, and we need to work on that.
Я думаю, що зараз фактично комісія з регулювання, взагалі індустрія знаходиться поки що на старті. І далі буде набагато простіше, я впевнений в цьому, тому що всі учасники, назвемо це гра, всі учасники цієї гри, вони зацікавлені, в них одна мета. Давайте відверто скажемо, що держава зацікавлена в тому, щоб було сплачено якомога більше податків. Це зрозуміло, так. Бізнес хоче заробляти якомога більше. Там, де бізнес, там робочі місця, власне, і сплата податків. І всі у всьому зацікавлені, тому точно тут якраз є точка перетину, де мета кожного сходиться.
I think that the gambling industry is Ukraine is only making its first steps in the direction of complete openness and transparency, and with time it will be much easier because all players on this market, the state and the business, they have shared goal. And let me be honest, that the goal of the state is to get more taxes, of course. The goal of the business is to make more money and, of course, to create new jobs for the people. And that is why there is one point when our interests intersect.
Зі свого боку, Державна регуляторна служба робить все, щоб ці починання вони реалізувалися якомога скоріше. Я думаю, якщо ви запитаєте представників, ми дійсно є тим майданчиком, яка вирішує зараз багато питань. І ми робимо це дуже оперативно, займаючи й державницьку позицію, тому що ми розуміємо, що досить амбітні були поставлені плани з одного боку. З іншого боку, ми хочемо, щоб бізнес наш розвивався.
I would like to say that the state regulatory service does our best to improve the situation in this direction, and if you ask representatives of the gambling business in Ukraine, they will say that we are always there to help them move forward, and we are really the platform for discussion between different stakeholders. We defend Ukraine, we defend our pro-Ukrainian stance, and of course we want to cooperate with business on that.
Це коротка відповідь на ваше питання.
So this was the short answer to your question.
Well, I wanted to ask, can you tell me, is the state regulatory service new and set up just for gambling? Or is this part of a larger regulatory service? And how much resources are devoted to gambling? And one question is, I mean, if you find illegal gambling, do you have legal powers to shut it down, or you call police, or what happens?
Ні, звісно, що наша служба була заснована не лише для контролю регулятора, який пов'язаний з азартними іграми.
So no, our service was founded not only for regulating the gambling business.
Через нас проходять всі регуляторні акти органів центральної влади та органів місцевого самоврядування.
All regulatory acts of the executive bodies and legal government pass through our service.
Ми фактично є контролерами всіх регуляторних органів країни.
So essentially we are controller of all the regulatory services in Ukraine.
Але я чомусь звернув увагу на саме ці взаємовідносини між регулятором, країлом та представниками бізнесу, що вони зараз знаходяться, розбудовуючи цю індустрію, вони знаходяться разом в позитивній площині. В нас дуже багато негативних прикладів, де ось коли ми виступаємо цим рефері, в нас доходить до серйозних баталій, де ми не можемо компромісу знайти між регулятором та гравцями тієї чи іншої індустрії. А тут на цьому етапі все добре. Я хотів би позитивно саме це відмітити.
But I would like to say that our cooperation with the gambling business has been very fruitful and successful. I must say this is a positive example of cooperation, because when it comes to other fields of business with other regulatory acts, it's not always that easy. So sometimes we couldn't reach a compromise with other stakeholders, and with representatives of the gambling business it has always been quite clear.
Що стосується незаконних казино, незаконних учасників грального бізнесу, то цим займаються правоохоронні органи, а також регулятор, який має відстежувати цей напрямок.
As for the illegal casinos or gambling halls, your second question, I would like to say that no, we don't have the possibility to close such facilities, but this is the work for law enforcement and the regulator whose task is to do just that.
Okay. We're at the hour, so we need to get to, if there are any questions, like to have questions. Otherwise, I wanted to come back to Boris, because you tried to talk earlier. I don't know if your point is still relevant that you wanted to make.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to have this little transition. Sorry about the. I would like to comment on Parimach's statement that the law doesn't include and has very declarative statements about the responsible gambling. So this is not true. So the law very strictly describes responsible gambling in terms of responsibility of the operator, responsibility of the player, responsibility of the workers that work for operator. So it's very strictly described in the law with all the punishments and all the fines and all these things and all these troubles that irresponsible operators will face if they break the law. So, and the Commission, the government wants to implement it because one of the functions of the Commission and the state is to protect society and protect the people, and on the other hand, create a balance between business and the players and the people that are using this business for their entertainment or whatever how they spend the money. Moreover, the law very clearly describes the legal responsibility. For example, the enforcement officers can go to prison up to 15 years for if they do not act on the cases on the secondary cases where they have to close the illegal business. So that has never been mentioned in any of the laws for any other, except again drugs and some other things. But illegal gambling is very strict in Ukraine, and the law does state that. So even if the player, for example, loses the money and he was illegally granted access to the casino, so this player can actually request a 10 times fine of his lost money to request to pay him back. Even his relatives of that player can do that. So we do try to outline these rules, and of course the Commission must look and see that it works. But it's not only their responsibility. If the players do complain, so the Commission takes the players that choose sides. So we have the right to go and check if this was true, if the access was illegal, and then they will pay the money. They will be fined. So it is important. So we are not very liberal. It's not only on their hands. So, and the government does look, and that is important because there has to be a balance. And today the law is very liberal, but it has rules, and they're very clear. So usually when these things are introduced, so there are holes in this law. So this law has some holes, but not very radical that might say that the law has a lot of corrupted things. So it's very transparent, very clear what to do. So the operators know what to do.
Yeah.
The Commission knows what to do. Everyone knows how it should work. Whether it's going to work, we'll see.
Okay.
But right now, it looks like it's working fine. We have a quite high trustability of the operators. So it is important that the tax laws are introduced, and then we'll see what happens next year. So as Alexei said, the next year is going to be very, very informative in terms of success rate.
Anton, I want to switch to the entertainment aspect. What have you learned in the first year? I mean, do you represent all 40 licensees, or how many are in your association?
I want to represent all 40 licensed companies.
Right.
But now I represent a big part of gambling market.
Okay.
Because we are the single effective NGO,
Right.
like single voice. We have, I don't want to say 7 companies, but 7 groups of companies. And also we have exhibition industry as a member, single professional magazine, and also 4 professional NGOs.
So you publish your own magazine?
No, it's separate, separate institution.
Okay.
But they are our member.
Azar magazine,
Yeah, because it is very important to have common informative
Right.
ground, and to understand such difficult things, professional things like taxes,
So it's an
social gambling.
insider magazine,
yeah,
published in Ukrainian language or?
Yeah, only Ukrainian.
Only Ukrainian.
Yeah, and if we look at other NGOs, we are the most systematic. It is not good words for me or the members, but it is fact. We have a lot of opponents, but nevertheless, we are the best. And what about social protection?
Wait, I got you. It's social. Can I shift though to where? I mean, I'm not a professional gambler, but where can I go that would be just fun? I mean, gambling licenses have been restricted to, I get 4 or 5 star hotels, the highest end hotels. Who's got them? Who's been the most popular in the first year? And I'm not talking online, but offline.
You know, the most popular brands are in UGC, so you can see them on our website. As the head of this organization, I don't want to say about
let's rephrase this. Okay,
Yeah,
Boris will tell me, so I'm going to ask him.
I
I want to
should
know. I want to know what hotels have gambling now in the city, in the country.
Hotel Fairmont in Kiev,
Fairmont.
Intercontinental. Premier Palace is opening on Friday.
Okay.
In Odessa, one of the, and this is we were very proud of it, because Odessa in Hotel Gagarin, they have built one of the largest and most beautiful casinos in Europe, the largest in Europe.
Wow, Gagarin.
So, and you should go, and I really strongly recommend, because they did a great job. It's a huge investment, but it's just nice to see the designer must get the prize for the design of the hotel of this casino. So there are 2 more casinos to be opened in Kiev. Actually, tomorrow is the grand opening of Fairmont. It's Casino Shangri-La. So we're not advertising, but it's going to be a big event. It's huge. And in Lvov, we have casino opened as well. And in Dnipropetrovsk and Kharkov, they're to be opened. It's only 5-star luxury hotels, and this is what we want to do. And online,
5-star luxury, and they have to take out a 5-year license at $2 million a year.
Yes, it's $2.5 million a year.
You have to be very, very wealthy to get a gambling license.
On average, Kiev license costs 100 million grivnas a year. This is the license fees only.
Okay.
So which is about $3.5 million. It's a fix. That's without rent, without payroll and the other things.
So this really discourages the mom and pop operations. I mean, this is meant to ensure that it's more transparent and reputable players. They really think they can make money on this, right?
Yes, well, first of all, I mean, one of the reasons I will just notice why for the land base, of course, online we understand. One of the great ideas of the President Zelensky was he said he looked at examples of Georgian casinos in Cyprus, how they do it in Latvia. So everything is moving, the land base is moving to the 5-star hotels.
Okay.
And he was surprised that we looked at the hotel industry, and then we don't have any resort, a huge resort in Ukraine. So, and then he was in Turkey, and then he said, well, I mean, and a lot of Turkish people are going to Georgia, for example, to play, and that was a very, Batumi is one of the good examples of how they build in a city hotels, and it's not Las Vegas, Batumi, but they have 5-6 casinos only, but they have a lot of hotels, and that industry booms. So the reason was that we have to try to attract hotel operators to build hotels, and that would give them a free license for the casino. That was the major idea.
Okay.
To attract and build more hotels.
They need to operate 24/7, don't they, to make this go? The hotel
hotels?
operators?
Yes.
Yeah, 24 hours.
So now about the market. Why Ukraine? As we know that there is a market in Georgia, that are our neighbors basically.
Right.
We have the market in Belarus, that's our neighbors as well. Russians, they have it far away, so the people don't travel. So, and Cyprus. So that's where Turkish people go. So today there's a lot of job that we have done together with the agency of tourism, and the people are now coming from Arab countries to visit Ukraine. Turkish people are visiting, so we are getting a lot of business from Belarus, from Georgia, and Arab people. So they said that they like Ukraine. So Ukraine is very good in climate in the summer. So they like the idea of the country, and actually legalization of gambling gave a boost to this hotel things, and that's why the people started coming to Ukraine, and that is working together like that. So there is a huge potential. We know that the Arabic now investors are buying a lot of properties. They want to build a lot of hotels, and they like the casino ideas as well. So Odessa hopefully is going to boom, Lvov is going to boom, and Kiev, and this thing works only after 1 year. So, and that is a very good example of how good idea can benefit the whole several sectors of the economy.
We should mention one more industry. So I would say, so this infrastructure investments and tourism, that's great, and I agree that it has great potential, but I would say, like, being more IT and tech guys, that IT industry, the Kiev is now becoming one of the big centers of development of gambling software, gambling businesses, and now after the regulation was passed, it's like one more opportunity, and it's already rising. If you look in Kiev for technology salaries, it's not only about gambling software, obviously, but the Kiev is becoming, not Kiev only, the Ukraine in general is becoming a great big IT hub with a lot of prominent, mostly young people. Now we have a lot of students who are becoming IT guys.
This is an industry geared towards online gambling, right?
It's
It
about
was.
all. It's so the IT booms because of a lot outsource. Now we have a lot of startups. I mean, not only in the gambling industry, but gambling industry contributes to this as well, because Ukrainian and international companies, a lot of outsource some part of the businesses or the biggest part of the businesses to Ukraine. So that's one big potential which is already working, which it's hard to just to say how much money is involved, but it is big, because it's hard to just take part from the gambling software business and other software business. But generally, we all know that it becomes one of the most important industries for Ukraine.
There were tens of thousands of IT guys who were working for the gambling industry, one way or another way, from the international companies, and they were not legal here. So B2B licenses that the companies are getting today, that are not very expensive. They're legalizing all these people and legalizing all their business today. So they're writing those codes, the games, and other things. So a lot of worldwide companies are having their headquarters, IT headquarters in Ukraine.
So it's been a big benefit so far.
Huge benefit.
Can you tell? I probably should ask this.
And saying about technology, I want to about Boris' remark. Yeah, in the law there are a lot of regulations which need to be implemented about how the companies and how the gamblers should how they should be, the rules. But my point was that operators should go even ahead. For example, you would not put, for example, in law that operator need to use some artificial intelligence system to try to learn proactive whether the gambler would have problems with it. But I think as a group, business and some non-government organizations like Ukrainian Gambling Council, together we need to work on this and be even proactive. Not only reactive to have all rules that are put in law, but be proactive into decreasing the harm of gambling to some vulnerable groups. And we don't need to invent like it's from scratch, because in a lot of countries it's already invented. We need just to implement.
Well regulated. I should have asked this at the beginning. Paramount, you're involved in online and offline gambling services, right?
No.
Only online.
Yeah.
online. What is the entertainment value in online gambling? I mean, I can see offline. You go to a hotel, you have a party atmosphere, you have a nice buffet, you have maybe a singer entertainment.
It's really about personal views of what's the value of gaming, like computer gaming. For me it's high, for somebody it's very low. For me, I like to play blackjack in offline, but I like to make bets online as well. So the entertainment part is big. It's every in every point of time where some thing brings emotions to the customer, and he feels emotions, and he feels sometimes joy, sometimes he might be negative about his the team who is he's fan of, he's losing or he's losing a bet. It brings him emotions, and this is the value. Same offline and online.
Who owns Pair Match, by the way?
You can see it in it's officially mentioned, so you can see it.
You're not going to tell me.
I'm not going to tell you now.
It's a private company.
Yeah, it's private.
Okay. We're at the final round here. So I want to go with closing comments. So just a couple minutes each to maybe pull together the discussion. Maybe the best way to frame it is what we should be watching for in the next year, and what needs to happen for us to realize our full potential in the gambling sphere. I guess we'll go in reverse order. We'll start with Alexei. 2 minutes.
Дуже дякую. Моє завдання, воно чітко прописано в моєму функціоналі. Найближчим часом нам необхідно зробити так, щоб таких складних правил, які, на жаль, залишаються ще в цій індустрії, їх було якомога менше. Наші дії зараз вже направлені на дерегуляцію, це по-перше, і по-друге, на те, щоб ми фільтрували акти належним чином і не пропускали нові зайві регуляції. Тобто дві опції – це дерегулювати те, що вже складне, і не пропустити те складне, що зараз, на жаль, пхають інші органи, і учасники ринку зможуть це підтвердити. Наприклад, Міністерство фінансів наше там вигадує зараз деякі регулювання, м'яко кажучи, погані.
So my task is clear, and my task and task of our service is to simplify the existing rules and to filter those regulatory acts which pass through our agency to prevent these from over-regulating the market. So I would like to reiterate the first task is to deregulate the existing regulations and to prevent excessive regulations from coming, because a lot of state agencies, such for example as the Ministry of Finance, so they work hard on some regulations which might be too much, in my opinion.
Okay. We've got a regulator who's worried about over-regulating.
Так, ви регулятор, який хвилюється про надмірну регуляцію, це чудово.
Ми не регулятор, ми контролери регуляторів.
Okay,
So we're
you're
not
controlling the
regulator.
regulator. It's a good position. How is it funded, this regulatory? Is this a state agency?
Ваша державна структура, так?
Так, Державна регуляторна служба України.
How big is the agency?
Скільки велика ваша?
Is it under the Ministry of Finance?
Є центральний апарат, це центральний орган виконавчої влади. Є центральний апарат, і в кожному регіоні є наш осередок. Координуємося ми Кабінетом міністрів України.
Cabinet ministers. Okay.
Yes, we are controlled under the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, and we are a central executive body. We have central office in Kiev, but also offices all over Ukraine.
Okay. Controller of the regulator. That sounds like a great job if you can get it. Anton, your final words as the industry representative here.
I highly appreciate the efforts of the government and the wide business to make gambling market in Ukraine civilized and effective. And I think that the most profits from gambling can be used in the triangle government, business and society. I think it is classical approach for the development of this market, and I not only wish all success, but I also, as not only responsible gambler as a responsible citizen of my country, I want to do all my best with UGC to support the government and business in this great path for making reforms in Ukraine.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Roman.
Yeah, so I want to say that we are at the starting point and we have all chances to success. And as the question was which points we need, and we have 2 minutes, so let's have 2 points. One point is what we already spoke today is tax regulation, which is crucial and really important. And the other point is I'm very happy seeing Alexei here today. So it's about having rules. Rules should be strict but simple. So simple is better because it provides business time for work, not for like having very detailed approach about some very specific rules. Let business do business and government control and collect taxes.
Okay. Boris, you got the final word.
Most of the points were mentioned, but to be very specific, so I would like to see next year that we issue the I'll say this very directly. We want to issue the investment license for the Hard Rock Cafe that they built the huge here hotel in Kiev, and that we show that the gambling is about direct investment.
Hard Rock Cafe.
Hard Rock Cafe. That's
Okay.
what I'm just predicting. Hard Rock Cafe is going to build a huge hotel, huge complex somewhere here. Will start because they will start next year, and this is what the rest was already mentioned. So.
Igor Smilansky, who's the head of Ukrposhta, talked about selling the central post office for a hotel and casino. Is that going anywhere? We know the Dnipro Hotel went that direction.
So I will talk to him. And
You'll talk to him, find an investor. Okay, we're looking for Western investors here.
Well,
I think this is a good point to end it. It's a hopeful point. We are at the start of the road, the new road for legalization of gambling in Ukraine. It's an entertainment industry, has a lot of upsides, has a lot of downsides, which the speakers have been pointing out that we're trying to minimize so that we have good, clean fun, and like Anton, end up being a winner every time we gamble. But that's we'll see how that happens. So we'll revisit, I think, in the nearest future after we get the tax law, after we get some more gambling operators in. But in the meantime, there are 40 places where you can go gambling, online and offline. So I'm Brian Bonner, Chief Editor of the Kyiv Post, and I want to thank everybody who participated in this discussion. It's been really educational, really interesting, and thank you for listening.
thank you.
Have a great day.